Great, thanks very much. Really happy to be here in London today. I was really also want to thank all the partners that are here at the event today. A lot of familiar logos and companies that we work with really closely. But more than anything, this morning I've been really inspired hearing from Marie and from Amber and John about what this business is all about, which is being able to use technology and the app ecosystem that exists to build great experiences for users, and how hard that can actually be in a really crowded ecosystem. So what I was asked to talk about today is sort of the state of app discovery this year. And what I thought I would do is start by talking about some of the trends that are influencing our thinking, and then go a little bit into how we're trying to solve those problems for businesses as well as for users. And so first, a couple of trends. And some of these I think you may have heard. I even saw a slide this morning that's in my deck, so interesting. So first of all, lots of mobile devices, right? There's no doubt that the increasingly time's being spent on mobile, and Google in particular, we've had our mobile moment as well. And so we recently released some stats that in well over 10 countries globally, we're now seeing more traffic coming to Google.com from mobile devices than from not mobile devices. And so we've had our mobile moment, so to speak. And it's no wonder. 2014 was a really big year with some phenomenal numbers around when there are now more active mobile devices on the planet than there are people on the planet. And so if you all think about the different connected devices that you have on your person, you can know very quickly how that's even possible. And the next billion users to come online are likely only going to use a mobile device and only know accessing the web from mobile. 7.4 billion devices. And nearly all of this growth is coming from smartphones, where we think the opportunity for app developers is obviously the most vast. And again, as mentioned earlier this morning, there are a lot of apps available, right? On the Google Play Store, there's well over 1 million apps. On the Apple Store, well over 1.5 million at this point as well. So it's a really thriving ecosystem. Lots of businesses are understanding that this is a fantastic way to engage with users in all the ways that mobile is supposed to make our lives easier. There we go. All these apps, of course, leads to lots of downloads, right? So the users have really spoken with regard to wanting to have that app-centric experience on their device. It's predicted that this year we'll see 180 billion downloads across paid and free, primarily free, over the course of this year. And that is over an 80% increase over just the last couple of years. And then, of course, time spent. So all these apps that are being downloaded, we're also seeing we're surprised at how much time continues to be spent in apps relative to other types of media. So the most recent data from earlier this year suggests that people are spending over 37 hours a month on apps, and again, a 60% plus increase in usage over just the last couple of years. So we've got a situation where we've got lots of devices, lots of apps, lots of downloads, and lots of time spent. So that sounds like a recipe for success, right, for everyone in this room. Now we think about some of the transformational experiences that apps enable, right? And so we heard a little bit this morning from Hopster and from Health and Parenting. In particular, Hopster this morning, I was thinking, how do I make screen time a win-win for parents and children? It's always a win for my child, but it doesn't always seem to be a win for the parents. So thinking about some of these transformational experiences that exist. Things like social and messaging and video and gaming are, of course, really strong use cases for mobile. But what's really interesting, I think, is also the next wave of experience that are happening within apps that are truly transformational. Previously, sort of the Internet of Things meme is sort of translating to what Accenture is calling liquid experiences, or these expectations of, I want to be able to just get out of a car service and not have to deal with paying, right? I want to be able to walk into my home and have the thermostat adjusted based on the fact that I'm here. And so increasingly, the blurring between the digital and physical worlds that's possible through app developers like yourselves, which can understand who the person is, the context of where they are, and an understanding of what they want to do in that moment. It's really going to create sort of the next sort of wow phase for digital. And so really excited to be a part of that as well. So that's all great news. But the problem is, for app developers, that it's incredibly hard to be discovered, right? Some studies have suggested that up to 80% of those million-plus apps in our app stores are never being downloaded by anyone, right? Or those that are downloaded, the engagement level just isn't there, and within a month, they're just abandoned. They're either uninstalled or just forgotten because they don't have that coveted place on the home screen. And so the challenge for developers, as all of these trends continue, right, more devices and more time spent and more apps in the App Store, it's great news for the ecosystem, but it actually makes it harder than ever to be discovered. And so for Google, we really like challenges like that, right? So if we go back to the core mission of the company, and I've been with Google for almost 9 years now, it was around organizing all of the world's information and making it accessible and useful. This is a familiar theme to anyone that works closely with us, and we really take that seriously. But to many, that seems to refer to indexing the World Wide Web and coming up with 10 blue links when you go to google.com. And yes, that may be where we began as a company, but increasingly as we think about mobile, we're applying this mission to try and evolve the mobile experience for users to make it easier, right? It's really difficult to get certain things done on mobile devices now, and how can we take all the different things that we have about an understanding of a user's context, the types of behaviors that they engage in on their mobile devices, right, and the things that they want to get done. And for us, it's really about going back to how can we provide answers and how can we provide actions for a user on mobile. And so a great sort of illustration of this is Google Now, which is available on Android devices. And this is really around moving Google as a company with users from an input base, like tell me exactly what you want and we'll find that for you, to more of an assist and suggest based on understanding different things that we can understand about you that you make available to us. And so Google Now on Tap is sort of the latest iteration of this. At Google I/O, our annual developers conference in Silicon Valley last month, we announced Google on Tap coming to the next version of the Android operating system. And here it sort of takes the notion of Google Now around having assistive and suggestive answers at your fingertips and puts it wherever you happen to be on your mobile device. The example that I have on the screen here is a YouTube video, and perhaps you're watching a video on Aziz Ansari, and allows you to tap and hold anywhere you are, any place within the mobile device, and then start to get more information from Google Now. And so this example just says, it's clear we understand that you're interested in Aziz Ansari. We have information on him. And we can even allow you to take some action. You can look at his Twitter feed, right? You can go to his Facebook page, etc. Find out more information on Wikipedia. And really being able to take action is a big part of that. But we don't want to just be able to do that for information that we have at our disposal. We want to be able to do that with app developers as well. So we launched Google Now on Tap's announcement by making sure that we work with a bunch of different partners, over 100 initially, and obviously expanding to as many as we can possibly work with, to try and integrate that experience well within the Google Now experience, as well as in the Google Now on Tap experience moving forward. And so a good example of this is, when the tube is on strike, you're able to quickly book a car based on realizing that that's taking place on Google Maps, and you see the traffic issues that are taking place. So really just be able to understand the context of the app or the mobile website that you're engaging with, understanding the content that you're consuming, and the types of things you may want to do next. And so we're really excited to do a lot of work with developers in that regard as well. This is the slide I saw earlier today. So when we think about discovery overall, one of the bigger challenges that the ecosystem has had is discoverability overall, right? And this concept of deep linking, which is around how can we make available the content that sits behind an app that hasn't necessarily been installed by a user and isn't necessarily crawlable the way an open web standard like HTTP is. And so to date, we've indexed well over 30 billion different app links over the last 18 to 24 months. And adding hundreds of thousands of more every day. And so this is really an opportunity for developers to increase the relevance that they can provide to users in the moment. Because from our standpoint, being able to find an answer for a user when they're looking, or even when we think they're looking, right, for something and want to be able to assist and suggest, that information can come from anywhere, and increasingly it's coming from apps. And so we're really committed to making sure that we develop a very robust ecosystem there. And as we spoke about earlier, not just the answer as to where you might find this information, but the ability to take action. So if the user finds that there's an app that could answer their need, they have the ability to go right to the install page, organically or through advertising. If they already have the app, but it can also serve as a great reminder to, rather than go and find this information elsewhere, you've expressed interest in this developer enough to install the app on your device, why don't you just go to that app, right and navigate right from Google. And not just to the front page of the app, but to the deep link well within your content. So again, you can take action really quickly. Again, we see all of these things around being able to evolve that mobile experience and reduce the number of steps it takes to get things done. We've also invested very heavily in advertising solutions, and as James mentioned earlier, I work on the global display and programmatic team based out of the US, and our big focus on the ad side of the business has been to enable as many new solutions for app developers as possible, right? Traditionally, a few years ago, most of our solutions were focused on websites, right? And so our recipe when we're thinking about our ad solutions is how can we provide access to lots of users, right? How can we provide them with data that will help them reach the right users? And then finally, how can we help them execute at scale? Again, listening to Amber and Marie this morning, I was listening to how much work it takes to actually get things done from a marketing standpoint to find the right users and get installs and be able to have a manageable cost per install and long-term value of users. All these things take a lot of time when what they probably want to be doing is getting back to making sure they have an excellent user experience and are expanding to new countries. So first I want to talk about access to users. Historically, I've worked on our AdMob business, which is about 650,000 app developers who choose to monetize it in some way with advertising. And we've expanded that notion. We see that as a great way for users to obviously find apps that they love to be able to download and engage with. But increasingly our focus over the last year plus has been how can we bring some really innovative ad solutions for developers into our owned and operated properties. And so our aspiration was to make sure that we could create sort of an app install funnel, right? So how can we create a solution across all of our properties, whether you want to be able to generate brand awareness, reach them during the consideration phase, or when they're exactly looking for the service that you provide, or even to re-engage with them later. And so we've done a lot of expanding into Google Search and onto YouTube, and we're doing more work in the Gmail space and more to come, of course. Again, another thing that we announced last month at Google I/O is a natural extension of some of the innovations that we've done on Google.com search, which is, wow, we happen to actually have an app store. Wouldn't it be a good idea to give an opportunity for developers to reach users with their advertising products right within Google Play? And so we'll be launching that more fully later this year. As you might expect, the early experiments have been very successful for app developers and great for users. A lot of people have asked us why we didn't do that a long time ago, and really it's around making sure that we balance the opportunity for app developers to be able to be discovered without ads. But are there some opportunities where we can serve users in a great way with an ad solution? And so we're proceeding very carefully there, but it's been working really great. We're getting lots of great feedback from both users as well as developers. And then in terms of access to a lot of users, our main focus has been, well, we've got some of the apps that users love, right, just on their own home screen. So we've got the Google app, we've got YouTube, we've got Gmail, we've got Google Maps. We've got immense reach to users both on Android and iOS, and we want to make sure that we're continuing to providing unique solutions for app developers, right? Not just our standard solutions that are available to any website developer. In terms of data to reach the right users, the focus for us here is, if you remember that stat about 95% of users will abandon an app within 1 month, and some of the stats that we saw from health and parenting around thinking about the long-term value of a user. For us, we want to try and reduce the number of sort of massive, cheap installs without any qualification, because in the long run, that doesn't lead to a profitable business. And so we're maniacally focused on serving the right ad to the right person. It goes back to our core when we first started search ads, where relevance is a key factor as to whether your ad even appears, let alone what you pay if a user clicks on it. Here we're really trying to translate how can we make sure that we're delivering the ads to the user most likely to install that app and then re-engage with it later. And so these are just some of the different signals that we have at our disposal. Obviously our understanding of how users interact with our own app store, how they interact with our own operating system on Android, how those habits transfer themselves onto iOS users, right? As well as the understanding of how they interact with our own owned and operated properties like Google.com and YouTube. Some good examples of this are some of the really obvious ones, which are Google being able to detect what sort of device you're on, whether you have the app installed already on your device, and obviously not showing the wrong ad to the wrong person where it clearly will have no chance of performing well, or even worse, be used as a paid navigational click, which is not really useful for most. Also be able to show ads to similar users, right? Now, through lookalike targeting methods, we have a great understanding of the types of users who have an affinity for certain types of games, or affinity for travel, or an affinity for dining out, and be able to reach users that are similar, that don't necessarily have apps that have your app installed, but may have others from your category. And then finally, particularly in the gaming category right now, although we're seeing some good advances in commerce and in travel, is people that make in-app purchases, right? So if we think about that notion of long-term value, if you want to be able to invest in a user that's going to continue to return, and not only return, but also make some in-app purchases, we have some great solutions there as well. So it's a lot of different knobs and levers to pull. And so the real focus that we have here is how can we execute that at scale? Again, so developers can get back to creating great experiences for user and not spend all of their time refining their market strategy. And so we were pleased to announce earlier this month the launch of Universal App Campaigns, which is an opportunity for developers to get up and running with Google Ads solutions, either in Google AdWords or in the Google Play Developer Console very quickly. And so the notion is this: provide a budget, provide a number of installs, right? Provide the location of your assets on Android or iOS. We'll create all of the advertising assets that'll be able to install directly to the store, and we'll also optimize across search, across display, and across video, all without any additional settings or required optimization by you. All we do is we optimize across all of our channels and deliver installs at your target CPA. So again, we think is a great way to get new app developers into our ecosystem really quickly without having to invest a ton of time. And obviously we'll still, for our power users, and I know there are many of them in the room, we'll continue to develop deeper tools and more complex controls for those that really want to master everything that we're doing. And so in closing, I just wanted to say we're overly focused on discovery as a company in general, and we believe that app discovery in particular is a really great challenge that we want to be able to solve, not only with our advertising-based tools, but also with all of the organic tools that we've been providing to users for over a decade. Thanks very much for the time.